what led you to where you are today? Many transitions. You started off as a naval engineer. You were then a banker. In between, you were at the IMF. You were in the public sector, went back to the private sector, and now you've taken on this, to say the least, challenging job. It would be great to hear about your personal journey. So with that, let me turn it over to you.
Okay, well, first, it's a great pleasure to be here. Janet, so good to see you, Louise, and so many others here. It's really great. Not the least because I think that education is such an important thing for Brazil, to get more skills, to have more people really eager to devote time to learn, to practice. This is what really makes a difference for a country. And I think in some ways it's what makes played an important role for myself. The opportunity to get new challenges, to use what I know, the skills I have to address things, to change the environment. I think in many ways it's what ultimately propelled me through the opportunities. And also I think that when you train, when you also keep yourself up to date in some things, you're ready. And I think that you mentioned entrepreneurship, but in Brazil people say that you have to say jump on the horse when the horse passes, and if you were prepared, you can ride it and do good things. So I think that of course a lot of the things that led me to different things are related to know some math. I mean, many of you know that engineering is a good base for some of the economics. I'm sure that Corcoran is teaching all these second order differential equations with good border conditions just happen to be the basics of heat and mechanical engineering. So things are linked when you look beyond the specific thing. And then also the practical experience, which many of you in business school really get the first hand, also help you to address in a very pragmatic way any problem that you have to try to solve.
So talking about problems to solve, let me get to the heart of the matter, which you probably get asked about. What are the key issues that you face in your current role today?
Well, I think the main thing is to prepare Brazil to a new cycle of investment. I've been telling people that the commodity cycle is over, and it's good, and we've been through that a few times, and we still have so many things in our favor that if things are a little bit more, let's call it difficult, it's not a reason to be depressed or in doubt or what's going to happen to Brazil. Well, the worst thing it might be that, well, maybe you have to work a little bit more, but that's not the problem. What is the implication for public policy? The implication is that you cannot make mistakes. You cannot, for instance, overburden the economy with expenditure, with taxes. So I've been telling my new friends in Congress and elsewhere that say, guys, look, we don't have a real problem, but we can get the problem if you start to make mistakes. So now it's the moment to try to get the right diagnosis, to say, well, yes, all this talk about productivity is for real, and then let not create incentives that will work against us, because one very important thing in public policy is that often there are things that people don't perceive very much, but really slow down the economy. People look at the environment, they don't get so excited, so they don't want to take more risk. And you add this for all the millions and millions of people who make decisions, and that means lower growth. In many ways, now since he mentioned that I'm a neighbor architect, it's below the waterline, but you have all this barnacle. Yeah, you can make a lot of effort, but you're not going to sail very quickly. You have to get rid of all this barnacle. You have to have a clean hull so that you really can sail and be competitive in this world.
So one of the things that you just mentioned is that there is less margin for error right now, especially in terms of policy. But I'd like to flip that around and ask the question, therefore, what would constitute success, both for policy as well as for you as the finance minister?
I think, of course, there are metrics that are very simple. We want more employment. We want growth. We want better use of public resources. And also we need to get in some areas of a little bit more the frontier of technology. And this is not because I have a new little program that's going to help one or other nurture. It's because people will see the incentive to say, well, it's worthy taking the risk, trying new things, get to a new area. This is what we'll need to get success. Will be this. Will be growing. Will be to have more employment, and also people taking challenges in new areas, so we develop as a country new skills, new abilities.
And in order to get there, there is both the economics of where you want to be and the politics of getting there, and your thoughts on the ability to implement these ideas would be appreciated as well.
Well, I think that we're a democratic country, so we have to be able to express. And again, clarity of where you want to go is very important, so we don't get lost. The ability to tell people, first you have to feel where they come from, and say, okay, we empathize, but let's do that and that. So, I mean, I don't want to use the time to get into detail what you're doing, but I've been telling some of the people in Congress, mind you, there's something that we're doing just to save money. Okay, so it's ajuste fiscal. But there's more. It's also things that we are re-engineering the economy for this new world that I've been telling. So, for instance, among the measures that we've taken, one, we are changing the incentives for unemployment benefits. It's not so much that you're saving money, but you're improving the labor market. You are reducing the turnover, especially among young people. And you're also giving them the incentive that, okay, the important thing is to learn. It's okay, you may want to flip job because you've got more experience, fine, but don't do this at the expense of the government. Things like this, and the question of pensions. Okay, everybody wants, I'm going to tell you a little secret. Here in Brazil, most companies don't like to pay taxes.
That may not be a problem unique to Brazil, right?
Exactly, but I don't share that. Okay, they don't want to pay tax. They don't want to pay Social Security contribution, and so forth and so on. There's a big fight about that. Okay, so let's also think on how you can save on Social Security. So part of the reform that we're doing are things that are not taking away rights, but are improving, are avoiding waste in this thing. Not so much fraud, abuse, and so, but also waste. Things that have changed the objective of some programs. And there, for instance, some training on understanding what is the basic objective for some policies is very important, because then you can say, okay, I want these things to do that, and differentiate from another programs, because often you get this blur of a different programs and you don't know what they're doing. More and more, especially in a democratic country, to be able to understand what is the objective, so, as you asked, you can have a measure of success. You can only have a measure of success if you know what you want. And this applies, of course, to social and economic programs, okay, and where the bulk of our money is spent. So I think there will be more and more demand of society. How you can measure success of public policies?
I'd like to now, given that the audience, significant fraction of the audience comes from the business and the financial services sector, what's your vision for those? In addition to the macroeconomic picture that you have to care about, how would you like the private sector to be better, different, bigger in Brazil, as well as financial markets? Your thoughts on those?
Well, I think that, of course, we want to have more competition. Competition is good. Competition spurs innovation. I mean, you cannot really get complacent. And for this, we need competition in all marketplace. And we are working there. And it's good. Some of our ministers, even in trade, they have a more open perspective. They welcome to have competition from abroad and competition inside the country. We of course, we're trying to harness the force of the capital markets to finance. One of the big challenges of Brazil is, for instance, financing infrastructure. You have to get a good design for the concessions, for the bids, and so on and so forth, so people feel confident about what they're doing, and they want to take risks on this area. And then if you have a good design, you can get also good financing, and you don't have to depend so much on public money to get some of these big projects going up. The role of the state in infrastructure will always exist. Infrastructure is something that's so big, involves so many things, but the main role of the government is what? Is to coordinate so that people can take the right risks in different slices of projects. So that will be a great way for the private sector to participate, both domestic, financial institutions, global financial institutions. And I think that if you do it right, to get these resources coming to Brazil, getting to infrastructure, lowering the cost of doing business in Brazil, is great for Brazil, and it'll also be great for those who invest, because ultimately, if you look a long time, through time, investing in Brazil is a good deal. We have some companies, I'm not going to name it, but there are some banks that have been dealing with Brazil for 170 or 80, 90 years now, even from our independence. Mind you, there are some institutions, tomorrow you may ask about that to some people, but they have been involved in Brazil and making profits for, 170 years, 80 years, whatever. So it's a good place to do business.
One kind of big picture question. I hope you have a long and successful tenure, but when you're done, how would you like to be remembered?
Oh my goodness, that was not in the script, come on. I'm thinking I was a good father, a good husband, and a good friend. I think that's look, yeah. And beyond that, I think that what's important for us, what we want is to have a country with strong institutions, where you can apply skills where merit is really, rewarded. I think that's what I think most people want. So if I want to be ever remembered, it's really someone who believed and acted along these beliefs, that we are very fortunate to be in a country where there's a lot of freedom, where there is a lot of opportunities. It's up on us to continue to build it. And when you look around, there are a few countries that offer more than Brazil. This has to give us, move us in our guts to get the energy to fight, because of course there are many problems. There's poverty, there's misuse of resources, there's lack of competition. You have to fight, and we are so fortunate. We are a group of people that within our society we have a lot that went for. We worked a lot, but we also were endowed with so much. So to have this faith, to use that, to build more, to know that there are enough people who think like us, so that we can succeed and we can do a better country. I think that's really what motivates me.
That is quite an inspiring question, and in particular, one feels that there is a rightful place for Brazil as one of the leading economies of the world, given all the endowments that you just talked about, not least of which are the people. And so, and I, as they say, from your mouth to God's ears. And I know that we are at a poignant point, but I'm from the American Midwest, where we are kind of fond of irreverence. And so the one question I've asked a lot of people, and therefore want to ask you too, is when you kick back and relax, what do you do? Well, you may not have relaxed in the past few months, but eventually you will.
No, actually, I mean, how you can put that without... I'm fortunate to have a small craft that allows me to be close to nature and to really enjoy nature very closely, sometimes with friends, even sometimes on my own, in a very wonderful place that some of you are familiar, which is the Bay of Guanabara and the sea surrounding. I can tell you it's quite magical. You're in 10, 15 minutes, so you're carried away to a completely different world. So that's a very good way to relax, and if you are with a couple of friends, even better. You forget about everything else. You just hear the little sounds that you can get there, and you just have to pay attention to the wind, and that's it. And so that's where you relax.
Okay, now I'm envious. I said I'm envious now. I watch TV. Shall we open it to the audience?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So feel free to raise your hand. I think the room is small enough that you can just shout out the question, otherwise we can pass the mic around. Janet's got the first question.
I think I need one.
Okay.
It's really a great treat to read the papers every day because we are almost always treated to a smiling face, an optimistic point of view, and a confidence that things are going to get better. What worries me is that unfortunately we don't yet have a large number of newspaper readers in Brazil. And I wonder, Dr. Levy, if you sense any sort of boundary put on you, or do you feel that you will be able to have a chance to speak more directly to Brazilian people who, after all, would be delighted to hear your message of optimism and perhaps would be much more willing to cooperate with the somewhat bumpy path in the near future?
Well, I think that, I don't know, we have our own limitations on everything, but again, I think that in Brazil we enjoy so much freedom, and I'm told that sometimes I appear in these relaxing equipment that you use in the news. I mean, usually very sound bites. The other day I experimented with, I don't know the exact name, but it's something that you get to one of the social networks, and people send you hundreds of questions and you try to respond, and young people ask about all sorts of things. So I have sometimes ventured into this social network. And more generally, I think that, talking is very important, and listening is also important. To understand what people are afraid of, or people willing to, what is their desires, their expectations. I think this is fundamental. So trying to talk to people, all sorts of people, is very important. For me, it has been very gratifying. I've been joking, but even talking to people from Congress, I start to have such a different vision, because everybody comes from a different perspective, and then you will understand a bit these dynamics.
Other questions? The back there.
Nice for you to come in here. We have been experienced for the last 4 years a very unique way of doing business and managing the country. And you're privileged enough to be on the other side and having a specific field. Can you share a little bit what you feel that has changed and how is it changing? And can you share some light on technical people that you're working with and some support that you have, and which directions that you think that this new vision that the government has today will take us for the next 4 years?
Well, I think that the President mentioned not long ago, a couple of weeks ago, that some of the approaches were exhausted. And there is this realization that some of the things that were tried didn't bring the results. I think there's a learning process. We know about many of the mistakes that were made. I think that it was an easier time. This is one reason why I've been telling people, look, be aware not to make mistakes. I think that you have to continue to work. It's really tough work that requires patience. You have to work more and more on the micro things. When I talk about competition, when I talk to get the right design to some things, for instance, auctions and so on and so forth. I think that there's a genuine desire by the President to get things right. Sometimes not in the easiest way, but not the most effective way, but there's this genuine design. I think, again, and this is part of our training, and I have to tell you something, I took one of the field, it's not field, what they call the field exam, no, the one that you did, field exam?
Yeah.
Qualifying, whatever, in the business school. I took, I think, 3 in the department, but I took finance with my dear Professor Constantinides and so on and so forth. So I think that definitely it's not just because Booth got all these Clark medals and so on. I mean, even many years ago, not to imagine how many years ago, already, going to Booth was a great source of learning for us from the economic department. But I had this digression because, a fundamental thing is that you should never address symptoms. You have to work hard to find the cause. And sometimes you make a small change in causes, and you get a big change in the symptoms and so on and so forth. I think a mistake often is you have a symptom, well, let's get the program to deal with this symptom. We have to go deeper, and this requires a lot of patience. I was fortunate to learn my training, put it years back when I was already in government with Minister Malone, and in many ways with Minister Malone, people who are very thoughtful, people who take time to think, to try to understand, to talk to people, to get them. And to the extent possible, I try to get that. I got a great team. Some are old heads, some are people who I brought from different venues. So I think that's fundamental to have a great team in the Treasury Department and the Ministry of Fazenda. So I'm confident we have a great partnership with the Central Bank and also with planning. People in planning, some are very experienced too. So I think there are conditions to do good work.
Joaquim, hi, good to see you. So, thank you for speaking. So, good to see you. Thank you for coming again. So, at business school, we're going to have the 100-day plan for the start. So, to have the first thoughts, so to have your plan. And you're getting closer to the 100th day, so it's getting by. So, how are things going against your plans? I understand you probably had it very well planned. And where are the blind spots that you're seeing? So what are the things that are coming better than you expected at first?
Well, of course, there are some things that are planned, some are not completely planned. There are a lot of things also happening around the world. I mean, we get stronger and stronger signals that we may have a first interest rate movement in the U.S. This has created a lot of change around the globe. Here, of course, we're undergoing a very important institutional process that goes in parallel to the economy. And of course, this creates some impact on some things that we're planning. But I would say that first, I think that there is a great realization of people that we need a change. And this is very important. Okay? This is democracy. It was a tough job even for the government. There's still, it's difficult to adjust, to change the pattern, to convince people. But I think that the fact that most people have realized that we need change is a positive thing. Also, we have some measures that are in Congress. These have been discussed quite deeply. So I think that the consensus is being built around that. This is very important. Whenever we manage to get this measure passed, I think it will be certainly a stepstone to do more. And there are other things going. I mean, you're resuming concessions. We're trying to do some changes in capital markets. There are a lot of things. We got the whole thing about the realignment of prices, energy prices, both gas and electricity. These are important things because these create a new environment for people to make decisions. I have to take a flight because I have a breakfast in Brasilia tomorrow morning, and I have to leave before 10 from the airport. So I'm really sorry that I have to not to answer some of the questions.
Well, thank you both very much for being here and discussion. Thank each and every one of you for coming and sharing your